Alex Brown, right?
What?
Uh,
Hit the table.
Alex Brown? And he's dead? Yeah, I thought you knew that. Yes, I saw you talking.
I call the meeting to order. Can we get a roll call?
Let's see, Ms. Driver. Not yet. Dr. Genovese. Here. Dr. Lilliston.
Here.
Mr. Peters.
Here.
Dr. Resnick.
Sure, here.
Ms. Williams Galliano.
Present.
Dr. Wilson. Here. I don't see Dr. Lou.
She's
Oh,
here.
she's over there. She moves.
I switched aside.
Keep you on
You
your
have a
toes.
quorum.
Wonderful. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have an advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News and the Times on January 3rd, 2023. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being recorded for the purposes of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on YouTube Bulldog TV and the school district website, HVRSD.org. Please join me in the flag salute. Need a motion and a second to approve the minutes from September 8th regular meeting.
Second.
This 21st regular meeting.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Minutes pass. So I believe we have our first report out.
First, we're going to
Oops.
introduce.
Oh.
Or Miss Riley.
Ms. Riley.
in person.
Please join us to introduce our new student representative.
Good evening. I am so excited to introduce you to Hannah, your new student representative to the board. She is not only brilliant, this year she's taking 4 AP classes plus a dual enrollment class with Syracuse University for Calc 2, but she is also incredibly well-rounded. She's the captain of the color guard, a student council member, a Tollgate Grammar alumni, and she is also incredibly fun. I had lunch with Hannah and the student council officers today to talk about homecoming and some other things, and she is filled with brilliant ideas, wonderful thoughts, and you are really going to enjoy working with her this year. So, this is Hannah.
Wonderful, welcome.
Welcome.
Aye.
Yep,
Yes,
pull it-
pull the mic towards you and make sure the little, yep.
Grab the whole base and pull it toward you.
Alex, you want to help her
Oh.
out?
Is the light on now?
There you go.
It's on, but she's got to pull it closer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Hannah, and I'm a senior this year. I don't have much to talk about because the school year just started, but the first day of school was 2 weeks ago Thursday, and I think people have finally started to settle in on the groove of school. There are over 300 students participating in the fall athletics this year, and clubs are also starting their meetings this week. Back to school night was last Wednesday, so parents were able to meet their child's teachers and kind of see what they were learning this year. The student council started meeting to plan for the school's homecoming pep rally and the dance. And yeah, I had lunch with Miss Riley today. And something exciting is that this year there's a new student health center room in the 300 hall where students can go to de-stress if they need to during the day. It has fidget toys and comfy couches and other things like that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this upcoming school year. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you will learn, we always welcome you to stay, but understand that you're a very busy student. So, so if you need to leave us, you're more than welcome. But
Okay.
we all invite you.
On that note,
Thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you again next month.
Thank you.
Okay, just
thanks for our heroes.
efficiency. I love that.
Yes.
She goes, okay, let's go. So I'm going to forego any written president's report, but I do want to welcome you all to a new school year and just acknowledge the administration along with the teachers and staff on, you know, really kicking off the year smoothly. You know, just it takes a lot, and a lot needed to happen through the summer to prepare even for day one of school. So I just really, I wish the my facilities folks were here to acknowledge. I know they did some Herculean efforts to get the schools ready. So again, just welcome to the new school year, and we look forward to the amazing things to come. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Therese for her
Thank you.
welcome back message.
Thank you, and I do want to thank my complete team for all their work. Facilities, our teachers, our school leadership team, who we have 2 members here tonight. So thank you for coming, for all of your hard work. It was a lot to get ready for the school year. It always is, but we had the full support of our faculty and parents. We had a lot of parents that helped out this summer getting us ready. So you can go on to the next slide. Tonight in my report, I'm going to be covering a few things. First, I'm going to just show you some few pictures from the beginning of the year highlights. We've only been in school about a week and a half, but you know, I got a few pictures up here to show you that we got off to a good start. Then I'm going to talk about the district goals, some ways that you can get involved, and also it's Suicide Awareness Month, so I just want to give a quick talk about that. So, we've had our convocation on to celebrate 15 to 45 years. I think the first, do we recognize 10? Should I say 10 to 45? Or would we start with 15 when we give out the certificates? 20. So I should change that. We recognize the 10-year awards, and then we also recognize 20 to 45 years. We have somebody that's been on our staff for 45 years and was recognized at convocation. So we had a lot of celebrations. Miss Smith does a wonderful job at having fun with that, but we had a lot of gifts that we gave out. Also, we had a special guest. We had Cass Hutchinson come, who's a former grad, who shouted at her social studies teachers, talked about democracy and talked about how important her lessons were, learning to argue the other side in her social studies classes. But she came out to speak, and she has a book coming out at the end of the month, which is very exciting. So, you know, just really supporting some of our former grads that come back to speak. One of the things that we do in convocation every year is we surprise our teachers with a former student or someone to come talk to them, and she was very well received. We had walkthroughs, we had orientations for some of our new students, drive-bys at the high school, and the teachers spent a lot of time this past week getting to know their students and really setting the classroom norms. Meet and greet, Tollgate met their new principal, interim principal, who's here today, Melissa Laurie, very well received. And she's starting to take over the reins from Miss Jane Ellen, who will be leaving us soon to take her new position in South Hunterdon Regional School District. Back to school nights are already underway. We have 2 this week, or 1 this week. I think Timberlane's this week, but they're certainly underway, and everyone's getting a chance to meet their teachers. Sports and clubs, as Hannah shared, are already up and running. And we also had a 9/11 memorial procession through town. The fire department and first responders asked us to participate again in this year. The middle school has housed this piece of steel from the World Trade Center. The high school has, and now it's here in the board office. It's right out in the hallway if you want to take a look at it. But that was a ceremony right out front It was quite moving. I was surprised at how moved I was. I'm always moved when I participate in this ceremony. It's such a solemn affair, but it's an honor for us to house that here, and it'll be here for the course of the year. There are some pictures of the fire trucks going through and the kids getting started here. I think the most sexy facilities project that we did was the field. It's the prettiest. I didn't think y'all wanted to look at our boilers again or any of that, or any air conditioned, which barely worked during the heat wave and all of that. Yeah, we're very excited about getting everything up and going and started. The kids are back into the swing of things, and the teachers as well. Another really surprising announcement that we got here this past week is that all of our schools have made bronze sustainability status with the Sustainable New Jersey, which is a big deal. It's a lot of work. It's a heavy lift. So thank you to our principals, our teachers who are on our green teams, and most particularly Miss Carolyn McGrath, who took this on, which was a heavy lift, gathering all of the information and putting in the applications. But all of our schools are now bronze certified and will be recognized at New Jersey school boards in October. So that's exciting news. Okay, ways for you to get involved this year. These are the various committees and opportunities that you have to get involved. We had quite a sign up for people interested in the DEI committee, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I have 30 folks that we've selected. There were many representatives coming from the same schools, but if you weren't selected for the DEI committee, and those who were selected, if you haven't heard from me that you weren't, you were, and I will be emailing you tomorrow the particulars. The Drug and Alcohol Committee is still open. I only have 9 folks for that. 9 are enough if that's all we're going to get, but you might be waiting to see if you got on the other committee. That's still open for you to sign up if you're interested in getting involved and being a parent advisor to kind of help guide us on some of that education. The PTOs, the various level of PTOs, we have lots of them. We have school-based. We have the Strive PTO. That's our parents who have children with special needs. You can belong to more than one at a time, and often parents do. We have a single parent PTO. And we also have the MTPA PTO. I'm probably forgetting another one, but the MTPTA is the one that deals with our students that are visual performing arts students. So there's lots of opportunities for you to get involved there at the school-based level. HVEF, if you're interested in raising money that supports some of our programs. The Hopewell Valley Education Foundation is also another organization you can join if you want to get involved. And then finally, the district has not had a 5-year plan in a while. It's been about 2 years. It expired during COVID, and that wasn't something that we really wanted to take on virtually, because if you really want to have about 50 to 60 people involved in that strategic planning. We want a cross-section from the community. You don't have to be a parent to be on the planning committee. We're hoping to get some of our politicians involved, some of our seniors, some of our folks that maybe never had kids in district. And these folks will be, this planning will be facilitated by Jesse Adams, who's our Mercer County rep for New Jersey school boards, and one of his colleagues will come in and actually facilitate this. So if you're interested, it's going to be a 4-session commitment, hour and a half, and they do stick to that strict hour and a half. And we're looking to start this at the end of the budgeting cycle, which will be late fall, early winter. So when I send out all that information, you'll have the full date commitments, and we're looking for a hearty group of folks, because you will really be shaping the strategic plan for the district moving forward in the next 5 years. Facilities, academics, all of that. Okay, so our district goals. During our work session in late August, the board established goals in the areas of academics, civic engagement and building community, diversity, equity, and inclusion, facilities, and mental health. Under academics, one of the things that we've been working on very hard for years and have not successfully done is consistency in grading. I promise by the end of this year you will have consistency across departments, one grading policy for how we grade, how much projects are worth, assignments, and all of that. That's going to happen at the end of this year. I'm saying that. Did everybody hear me? This year. End of this year, we're going to make that happen, right, Dr. Plitzis? I know, it's not going to be fun, but we're doing it. Okay, so that's going to happen. Counseling students about AP and honors coursework. We found that since we have made the waiver process easier for students to waive into AP and honors, we have a lot of students that are jumping over levels and taking classes that may not be the good fit. and then we find that we're struggling, we're having mental health stress over classes that you probably shouldn't be taking. And you probably shouldn't be taking AP classes if they're not in the direction you plan on going in your academic career, right? Like, do I need AP stats if I want to be an actress or if I want to go into the arts? Do I really need that? So really doing a better job about counseling students about overloading themselves with these level of courses, and then maybe even putting some protections in place where if you didn't take honors, you probably shouldn't jump to AP. And if you're going to take an AP class and you're not waiving into 3, just doing some things to make sure that we're being more sensible about it and we're helping guide students in the way that they're making the right choices for themselves, and also for their transcripts later. Examining the alignment of the new language arts standards in mathematics, or some changes to those standards, making sure that we're putting some planning in place so that when we write new curricular or align to these new standards in the summer, we know what's the difference between what's coming out and what we already have currently in place. And then finally, setting the new elementary master schedule. We will be creating a new schedule at the elementary level like we did at Timberlane last year that will make space for the STEM exploratory course, in addition to EA, which is gifted and talented for us, and remediation, making sure there's time for all of that and a full block for language arts, math, and science. Civic engagement and building community. Under this category, we have identifying a model to teach civics and empower civic engagement and building community. I know Dr. Wilson is also going to talk a little bit about this during new business tonight. Interacting with your school board. We want to put out some more information about ways that you can interact with your school board and get some of your concerns that are out there in the community to your board members. What things should come to them, what things should come directly to one of us. So we want to put out some information about that to the community because we are here to serve you and we want to make sure that your voices are heard. And then finally, to continue to create forums to help educate our public about the harassment, intimidation, and bullying law, code, and process versus what conflict looks like among students, engaging in civil discourse, coming up with ways that we can civilly disagree on topics, because we always will be disagreeing. So we're going to be doing some forums around that and show you the work that we do with your children in our classrooms. Under DEI, we have curricular development. We continue to find ways to diversify our curriculum, not just to create those mirrors where you can see yourself no matter what walk of life you come from, but also addressing neurodiversity. We're continuing to train our staff on how do they deal with the different learning styles that may come in their classroom. Ms. Donardo can tell you we've had trainings going on the past week, training teachers in Orton Gillingham, which is a special way to teach readers, especially dyslexic readers, how to read. Seeking diverse candidates to staff our buildings. It's not easy. There aren't a lot of people of color or from various walks of lives or anybody entering education. We're not as, people aren't just rushing to be teachers anymore, but trying to make sure that we have diversity across our faculty, and not just folk of color, but that we have men at the elementary level and that we have, women represented in some of the science and STEM fields. That we're looking for more inclusive faculty than that. We really want our students to experience people from all over, backgrounds from all over. Okay, the next slide. Facilities. Finance and Facility Committee will continue to establish long and short-term goals and also preparing for the new developments. The committee has been very engaged in conversation, as have I, on how we're going to address not only our aging buildings that need some serious updating, but also how we're going to address the new students that are coming in into Bear Tavern and Stony Brook. Then finally, mental health. Last year, we were fortunate enough to get a grant where we were able to provide mental health training for not just staff and parents, but also a whole grade level of students. We are going to be doing the same thing again this year. The Digital Wellness Committee is going to put together some more opportunities for parents to learn how to make sure their kids are being safe and healthy online as they engage in social media platforms. And finally, more community forums. They were very well received last year on mental health, wellness, and awareness for parents and students. And then the sustainability plan. We have been working on this for 2 years. It's been a very comprehensive plan. But this will be published at the end of this year, and it will be a 3-year plan, I believe. that will be covering academics as well as facilities on moving the district forward and reducing our carbon footprint. And then again, we'll report out weekly on, weekly. We'll report out at the end of the year on our Green Week activities. That's also something we will do. Thank you, Bob. September is Suicide Awareness Month, so I'd be remiss without taking a moment to say something today. I will be sending something out to the larger community. But this is something that's very close to my heart. So this is a picture of my son, Ronnie, who my husband and I lost to suicide in 2017. And he's here with his girlfriend at the time, Caitlin. I called Caitlin last night and asked her if I used her picture, so she knows that I'm using her picture. This was him graduating from flight school for the Air Force. And a year later, we lost him. We know first responders as a profession are disproportionately affected by suicide, death by suicide. We lost another student recently, a graduate. He had graduated some years ago, but his parents, his mother actually works for the district. They've asked that you donate money to the first responders here in our community because they were very integral in finding him when he was missing. But I also wanted to give a shout out to this tonight because not only was I affected by losing Ronnie, but not some months later, Caitlin, whose sister was a Marine, also died by suicide. And so I got a call from her mom, and I'm thinking she's calling to check on me, and she's calling to get information on how to deal with Wilson to bury her daughter. And her daughter died by suicide about a week after it was announced that the government was going to go after LGBTQ members of the military, and she was a member of the LGBT community. She actually guarded the vice president, very brave young lady, and she took her life. She died by suicide. When her platoon came, or her squadron, I guess, came, many of them came, a couple of them came out right there on the podium as they were giving their eulogies about her, because they knew why she left, right? And so this is like the third cause of death in this country for our young people between the age of 15 and 24. Mostly boys are dying to this. We're losing them to something that we shouldn't be because there's a shame in mental health illness. Ronnie had struggled with this since he was an adolescent in his teen years, and he would just have this unreasonable sadness for no reason. He was a very happy-go-lucky kid. He had all these friends, folks that were at his funeral. He had like groups of friends. Everybody thought that Ronnie was his best friend, and he was Mr. Save Everyone, and he couldn't ask for help. He couldn't ask for help when he was in trouble in the military, and 3 people died in his barracks before he died. 3 died of suicide. This particular base is known for this. So we have to do something about this. And one is talking to our young men and women and telling them it's okay to tell somebody you're not okay. It's okay to get help. And I talk about it all the time as a parent because as parents, we're embarrassed. When the school district reaches out to you and says your child has suicide ideation or we're concerned, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. This is a true thing. This is something that we're grappling with in this country and around the world. And there's no shame in asking for help. And help is not great. I'm not going to tell you it's great, but we're going to navigate it together. So I put resources in this slide deck. We always have those available to you. Please reach out. If you can't afford counseling, we will pay for it. We'll get you connected. But know that you can't ignore this. We did all the right things and I still lost that kid. So know that there's nothing to be embarrassed about and keep trying to reach out, okay? All right, so thank you. I know that's heavy, but, and then finally I want to end with this. So no matter how bad it gets, no matter what happens, right? Maya Angelou says, you just hang on, it will get better tomorrow. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Treese. Just adding a moment of thanks for sharing so openly a heavy topic for you and your family and your community. And, you know, for anyone paying attention to the news, it's really just not a surprise that our children are struggling. So each time we speak as a community, as a school district, as a board about SEL and mental health and our counseling, please know that it is more than just the soft skills. It's wrapped in every part of our curriculum for a reason, because we want to teach and touch these kids when they might need to hear it the most. So I take every opportunity to say SEL is more than we think, and it needs to be in every part of our curriculum so that we can reach our children when they're struggling. So thank you again. And thank you to our administration for all the work that's done in this area. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to budget presentation, and we're starting. I just want to actually just give Bob a moment. Just can you share this piece of our budget process, and we're kicking it off this for the year, starting with curriculum.
Yes, that's what we're doing. So what we've been doing over the last several years is running through the major budget drivers. Okay. So through the months of September, October, November, December, and into January, we'll start running through the areas of special education, curriculum instruction, facilities, technology, and any of the other areas the board wants to go into, and we'll discuss those in finance facilities, bring some of those things back, and anything that the board wants to hear about, we can prepare information on it as we move in to kind of guide our process through budget development. We obviously won't have any numbers from the state until the end of February, but by the time we get to that, we'll have gone through most of the hot topics in budgeting. So we'll kick off tonight with Dr. Politzis and curriculum and instruction.
Thank you.
Just pull it to you. That's just going to take it out.
Should it be? Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Calavita. Okay, do you want to flip it? Yeah. Okay. So here's just an overview of what the Curriculum and Instruction Office does. A lot of focus on our instructional programming, as well as professional development, also seeks and applies for grants, and make sure that all of the standards that are put forth by the NJDOE are followed and aligned to curriculum. Thank you. This is just an organizational chart of all of the staff that fall under the Curriculum and Instruction Office. You can see that there are various supervisors that that oversee multiple departments. So for this school year, this Curriculum and Instruction Office would like to focus on social emotional learning as well as integrated data to drive instruction. So we really want to first focus on supporting our students and faculty social and emotionally. And towards that end, we have continued to work with Rutgers Behavioral Health and adopted a Character Strong program. We also have purchased some data platforms and are working with administrators and departments on reviewing data to make data-informed decisions. We're in the process of coming up with a district data protocol that we'll be utilizing to review not only standardized assessments, but also internal assessments, grade books, things of that sort. As mentioned, one of the oversights of this department is curriculum. And a few years ago, we transitioned to a 7-year plan for curriculum development and revision. This will make it easy for us to identify and to schedule which curriculum needs to be rewritten each summer. Part of the role of curriculum and instruction is to serve as a liaison between the local universities. We are also part of their Teacher of Scholars programs, which Princeton and TCNJ offer, in which different professors lead seminars on some topic of their expertise, and our faculty is able to attend and be a part of those seminars. Throughout the course of the year, we oversee professional development opportunities. Many of these are led by supervisors, teachers, and other administrators. Throughout the years, we have brought in a few consultants to work with our staff as well. We are responsible for writing state and federal grants and working with the Hopewell Valley Education Foundation on providing grant opportunities to all of our staff. So for this school year, these were some of the explorations that we focused on, including reviewing ELA programming, the creation and supporting of the 4 new teacher leaders at the elementary level, working with discipline-specific consultants, and running our 7th blended and personalized learning cohort that is led and supported by teachers. Additionally, this year we had a full rollout of our elementary mathematics program, and we are in the process of aligning curriculum and supporting faculty in new standards such as social studies and climate change integration. In comparing the 23-24 budget, so this I'm comparing it to what it was from 22 to 23. Our educational supplies is roughly the same. Salaries and purchase ed services went down by $100,000. There was a slight increase from last year in these 2 areas. Our professional development budget is up about $15,000, and we received about $9,000 more in title funds. So in looking ahead for, can you see that, why that one's not, oh, there it is, okay. So in looking ahead, we want to continue to support our students social and emotionally by continuing our relationship with Rutgers Behavioral Health Consultant and our character education program. The NJDOE is also set to release new standards in both ELA and math, as Dr. Treese mentioned, so curriculum writing and supplemental programming may be needed. As per the NJDOE climate change mandate, which is interdisciplinary, we want to continue to support our faculty on tools and strategies to infuse climate change in all content areas. So those are some of the focuses for next school year. In addition, in terms of programming, we'd like to explore elementary instructional materials that align with our elementary curriculum. Additionally, we need to revise our K-5 exceptionally able, which is our gifted and talented program, to meet the requirements put forth by the DOE. We still want to continue and expand our data platforms to drive instruction, such as Linkit, iReady, etc. And finally, as mentioned in the spring, we would like to bring back our STEM facilitators as a STEM exploratory position. The proposal is that there would be 1 per elementary building and would be 1 of the grade level exploratories. The focus would be on science and engineering practices, along with content related to climate education, technology skills, civic engagement, digital literacy. And so there is a link, I don't know if you want to click them, Mr. Calavita, and that just gives a more in-depth job responsibility for the STEM exploratories, is to what we're thinking at this point. So obviously with all of these, especially with these STEM exploratories, I would foresee our budget going slightly increasing for next school year. Slightly. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure. So as of now, as we talked about last year, the plan is to kind of roll a Chinese out of the middle school and then just be offered at the high school level. And it's simply just because there's staffing shortages. We weren't able to refill the position, unfortunately. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Sure.
Not working. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, I think it was near the beginning.
So we
Yeah, right there, right there.
so we just want to make sure that when we're making decisions that relate to instructional strategies, that we're using data to drive that. So for example, we're going to be taking a closer look at our NJSLA scores and seeing if there's any gaps that we're identifying in terms of performance to see if that could potentially be that we need to adjust curriculum. We're going to have teachers be looking at their grade books and assessments that they're utilizing to see, what areas that students are struggling with. So we're just making a more conscious effort to get people to talk about and use the data.
So by integration, you mean integration across different aspects of different facets or different focuses of data.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, there's one thing I've always been concerned about with data is the interpretation, and the work that you do to understand the sort of the constructs underlying the data. Is that part of your integration? I mean, I can see that would be a really important part in order to essentially integrate stuff that isn't necessarily integratable or doesn't seem to be integratable, but you need to understand the underlying concept.
Right. Well, so when you say constructs, what are you referring to?
Well, when you develop an assessment, you create constructs or the way that we interpret or conceptualize whatever it is. We're, for example, reading. There's the construct of reading has all sorts of different elements, and the way that we interpret what we find in scores is through our understanding of those underlying constructs. Now, there's a lot of that. If we can get the constructs right, our interpretations are more accurate and central.
Right.
And I'm just interested in that.
Right. So we obviously will be looking at, when we create an assessment, we're going to be looking at what our objectives were for the assessments, which are, I believe, what your constructs, and then making sure that we met those objectives. And if we didn't, what patterns and trends are we noticing?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Like one example specific to reading, for example. Before COVID really came upon us, we were noticing a drop in our reading scores, and we looked very closely at the data with our reading specialists about why were we having increasing numbers in special ed, why weren't students learning to read, and the construct was the science of reading, right, and how kids learn to read. And she spent a lot of time educating our teachers on these are the strands on how students learn how to read, phonemic awareness and phonology and all of those things were we weren't doing those things in the classroom with fidelity. Right, folks were kind of dropping the ball on that because there were new teachers coming in that didn't have the materials, and they were just doing workshop and weren't doing the reading science piece. And so when we made that correction, and it took somebody from the outside looking and interpreting the data for us and saying this is a gap, then we were able to look at what we were doing, put those pieces back into the curriculum, and we saw a difference. We saw the scores coming up. We saw a change, then COVID hit, and then we ended up back in the hole. But we knew what was causing it based on that dive. We found a dive in math at grade 7 years ago, the same thing. We had Vicki really look closely at what was going on in math. We learned that we were missing chunks of teaching probability and analysis, and there was whole chunks of that missing out of our curriculum, and that's why students were able to then do other things. And so we were able to put that back in. So having somebody to really interpret the data, see the trends, see what's missing, and then having teachers dig into what's missing in our curricula, why aren't we teaching these pieces, or are we teaching this more, they have this and we're not spending enough time on that, and and then we're able to make adjustments. So that's what she means by taking the data and then using that to drive what we do in the classroom.
And I mean, essentially, that's what I mean too. But I'm just thinking if you integrate across a number of different assessment tools, you need to be really clear on terms of the constructs that are consistent or shared across those tools.
Sorry, I just had two quick questions. So one, I just wanted to lift up this focus on the STEM elementary positions. I know that was something that a lot of folks in the community really cared about, and so I appreciate you highlighting that here, and I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about, I know we're still thinking about what this is going to look like, but what you imagine the job duties of those folks would be. And then the second question I had was regarding Rutgers Behavioral Health. Could you just clarify, are they going to play a role in curriculum development and instruction in addition to service delivery, or is this just about the service delivery component?
I'm going to answer that. Sure. So it's Samantha Awadala is our clinician, and it is about the delivery, and it also about helping our families. She has a caseload, but in addition to that, she also does training with staff. She consults with staff across the district when they're dealing with some intense students or students in crisis. And then she also provides quarterly parent workshops.
And so to answer your question about the STEM facilitators, or STEM Explorer cards, are you asking how that would look, like how many times would they meet with the kids, or are you asking more just about in terms of like?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could share a little more about what you envision their role being in their key job duties.
So we're in the process of exploring, as Dr. Tree said, developing a new master schedule at the elementary. So what we're planning, or we're tentatively thinking, is that they would be one of the exploratories at each grade level would it go to. I don't know how that would look. I don't know how many minutes it would be per week, but they would see all students K-5 at some portion during the week. And so then their focus would really be on, we'd obviously like to come up with a scope and sequence based on the grade level that they're seeing. So if we're looking at technology skills as one of their areas to instruct, well, it might look obviously a little bit different in the K2 band as it would in the 3-5. So that's one area. We're also looking at the engineering design process and how to infuse that in different content that is relevant to their grade level. And we're also looking at the climate change integration as we had the mandate put forth by the NJDOA. Those are just a few of them. Right. Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. I just want to go back to some of the points on the data. We've invested some non-negligible amount of money in tools that allow us to get some fairly granular data like Linkit, right? And I'd like to start just seeing maybe some examples of how we're using those tools. I know in the past our readouts tend to be on NJ SLA data and maybe AP score exams and stuff like that. AP exams apply only to a very particular subset of the student population. NJ SLA scores, I in particular don't really believe much into, because I know from experience that children are told to not stress about it because it's an evaluation of the school district and not them. And I suspect that's pretty common, right? So I don't think we've actually had a really good sources of data, which is why I was excited when you brought the Linkit program in, but I'd like to ask to start seeing at least, and it's not a request to approve everything that we do with it, but seeing examples of how it's being used, right, would be very useful. The other question I had for you, you mentioned changes in math and language arts standards from the state. So there's the integration of the climate change, Are there other changes other than that coming? And if there are, could we get
don't know.
probably?
Yeah.
And is there a reason to be changing these things on an annual basis?
Well, the math and ELA standards have not been changed since like 2016. So you know,
The math hasn't changed since 2016 either.
I know. So that they're
Okay,
just
yeah.
revising. But in
All
terms
right,
of
but-
mandates like the climate change, or you know, we had a Holocaust and genocide mandate. We don't know until they.
So it's a mandate-based
Yes.
changes
It
that we're
is.
anticipating as opposed to like a wholesale change of standards.
Correct. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
really what I was trying.
You know, move things in grade bands and things like that. We just have to see how that affects what we're doing, when we're teaching what, you know.
Mike?
Oh, sorry. I was saying that generally these changes don't vastly change the way we're teaching our curriculum. We might have to readjust when things are taught and how, you know, what grade levels and things like that. But usually the changes aren't so drastic. But the mandates and some of these other things, they come fast and furious, yes, and it'd be nice if we would coordinate those and spread them out a little bit, but it's not how it happens.
And Alex, for your first point, you're going to be disappointed next month. I do have to do the achievement report, which will be on NJSLA and AP, because that is required by the DOE.
Yes.
But I'm thinking maybe in the spring, you know, we do the iReady assessments in math, but maybe that after we take the second benchmark in the January, February, we can see what the growth is between the baseline. Would that suffice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And Linkit also has the ability at some point, we can put all of our assessments in there, and then you can triangulate. You can see what they did on NJSLA, what they did in your internal benchmarks. You can do all of it. So that's what we like about it. And they can create those reports, like you saw those 5-year reports that include our own assessments in it.
Hello. Okay, one for you. Just on the thread of STEM.
Yeah.
So I know it's early. Absent of budgetary, do we feel we're going to be in a position here to be able to have this baked, ready to go for 24, 25?
I think excluding the budget to the
Yep,
fiscal,
yep.
yes, I think we definitely
Great.
will. Yeah.
Excellent. Good work.
Any other questions? Okay, so just to save our young student from having to jump from his chair, I'll just remind you all to, when you speak, pull the mic towards you, please. You can just raise your hand, I can see you. Okay, thank you, Dr. Politzis, for your presentation. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into our first public comment for this evening. So members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. And just as a reminder, please make sure you sign your name at the podium when you come up to speak, and our gentleman
So
will be.
yellow is the 30-second warning, and red is your time's up. Because the timer's on my phone, so you're not going to hear it or see it.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, public comment is now open.
Can you hear me? Okay. Dr. Treese, thank you for sharing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Christine Rule, Hopewell Township. Thank you for sharing earlier about your son. I'm so sorry. That breaks my heart to hear that. I had something different to talk about, though. I wanted to talk about a Princeton-based company called High Tops that was recently caught undercover in on camera bragging about how they secretly, without parental knowledge or consent, teach sex education topics to children outside of the health class so that parents are unable to opt out. I know that our district does not use High Tops, but they do consult with other companies. High Tops admitted that they do this, what they're doing in order to reach children whose parents are opting them out. And it makes me question if other organizations are doing this, other organizations that maybe we're working with. Let me explain. Last year, middle school students were given a survey that asked them about their sexual orientation. Imagine asking prepubescent children as young as 10 or 11 years old who they are sexually attracted to and who they have romantic feelings for. I find it highly inappropriate to ask young children this. In addition, parents were not notified about this survey and they were not given the opportunity to opt out of it. A similar survey went out in 2022, so not last year, but the year before, and parents were notified about it, and they were notified why the district was conducting it, and parents were given the option to opt out. My questions are, why is there a lack of transparency? Why weren't parents not notified last year about this survey and given the option to opt out of it? What changed? What were you hoping to accomplish with this survey that has no basis in educating students? How can I opt my children out of surveys like this going forward that go against my moral and religious beliefs? Another question that was asked on last year's survey was if children were comfortable speaking with parents about DEI topics. Why did you ask that question? Do you feel parents are not equipped to discuss these topics with their own children? We all want what's in the best interest of children. If that's the case, why not partner with us as parents instead of leaving us in the dark? It makes me wonder if we are being cut out of parental consent for surveys, which is listed as in our board policies. Sorry. What else are you cutting us out of? What else is being kept from parents? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Aileen Matacoli. I live in Hopewell Township. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Trees for sharing her story. It was very touching and moving, and my heart goes out to you for that. I did want to talk about how I did attend the drug and alcohol coffee and chat that you had last spring. And I also volunteered to be on that committee, so hopefully you recognize my name. And I'm very happy that the district's doing stuff like this to bring the parents in and give us a chance to hear what's really happening behind closed doors and open our eyes to what our kids are seeing every day. Because I was really honestly shocked at a lot of the stuff I heard at that meeting. And shifting gears to go back to Dr. Politzis' talk on the data, I'm just curious as to, we get this data from the kids taking tests. What's the time frame that we look at? Like, okay, we get this data, we analyze it. How long is it before we actually recognize the gaps that we have in our curriculum and turn that into a plan where it's actually executed in the classroom to make up for those gaps? So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Kosis, and I live at 7 Wydell Drive in Pennington. Just like Christine, I also noticed that High Tops of Princeton came under scrutiny last week. A video shows 2 employees admitting that High Tops uses covert ways and backdoor channels to inject sex education topics into non-health classes in grades 2 through 12. The goal of these tactics is to circumvent the opt-out policy that parents have for sex education classes. Through emails this weekend with Dr. Treese, she assured me that the Hopewell District does not have a relationship with High Tops, and that's good news. This information about High Tops raises concerns, however, of covert tactics and backdoor channels being used by other education and advocacy groups that are utilized as resources for creating agendas and policies for our public schools. I have a document here created by FOSSE, Future of Sex Education. I passionately ask you to read this document. It recommends 2 troubling strategies, and are these strategies in our schools and part of our overall agenda? It advises introducing sexually related issues, sexual orientation, gender identity, etc., with younger children in the early grades because it helps to challenge the child's heteronormative and cisnormative values and assumptions before they become more deeply ingrained and less mutable. Remember the term covert? Socially and religious conservative families, Muslims, Christians, people of the Jewish faith, Hindu, there are conservative families who have faith traditions and beliefs, including that biological sex is a fact, 99.9%, 98% of people born are either male or female, and that there is a beauty and a reason for the design and purpose of heteronormativity and cisgendered lifestyles. Is there any concern that activism like this is chasing conservative religious families out of the public school system, sometimes at great expense and sacrifice for their families? It also advises introducing sex topics across the curriculum. High Tops of Princeton is under investigation for using backdoor channels to teach children about human sexuality in non-health classes, because this removes the need for parental knowledge and consent, known as the opt-out policy. Members of the board, parents want the right to be primary educators of their children. They want transparency, not backdoor channels and covert tactics. They want academics, not activism. They want neutrality. Thank you. If anyone wants to read the document, I'll read some
Dr. Treese, I just want to give you my deepest sympathies. I can't imagine going through that, and thank you for speaking publicly about it. My name is Allison. I live in Hopewell Township, Westcott Boulevard. 2 things. First, my son was not able to take EA this year because Timberlane could not get the schedules together. And so he's in 8th grade, and I think only 2 of the 8th graders were able to take EA, because I think it's because of the core literacy class that's messing everything up, but there are multiple conflicts, but it's quite a shame for the kids on that end of the spectrum to be lost because of the influx of this other content. But my primary talk here is about pronouns and surveying our children regarding pronouns and what they identify as. Public schools should be universally welcoming in a neutral way, and I'm speaking on behalf of the families whose values and beliefs are currently being ignored. For some reason, the school district is choosing not to utilize the streamlined functionality of turning on pronoun selection and on-course, and that would be transparent to everyone and done with an opt-in click, from what I understand. Instead, starting with elementary school-aged students, teachers are surveying the students about their gender identity, pronouns, and what they want to identify as. The district is choosing to be inefficient and waste valuable classroom time by asking the same questions every period in every classroom. This time could be better used for educational purposes. As you make the conscious decision to repeatedly ask these questions and not use the technology that is available to us and on course, the only conclusion that I arrive at is that you're making a point by repeating the same thing over and over again. As one of the other parents in a previous board meeting kindly cornered me and pointed out to me that this is what you do when you're trying to teach children something. You say it over and over again to them. Well, what I believe is valid, and if you want me to tolerate and accept and understand your side, then you need to be doing the same thing for our side. I'm speaking on behalf of the families who have different values and morals and beliefs, and those which pronouns and identity declaration don't align. I'm not judging by any means, but give us the choice. So by forcing the issue, we are being discriminated against. In an effort to find a solution to this, I'm asking how we can opt out of the repeated requirement of our children to declare pronouns and what they identify as. We would like to opt out of this questionnaire for the remainder of our time in the school district. Is it best to opt out of all surveys, questions, Google Forms, and Google Docs and questionnaires, no matter what the topic is? Or can you accommodate our beliefs as you do the other side? What's the best way to make this arrangement? And we need to be compassionate and neutral and accept both sides, not just force one side. So you're making a lot of young kids and older kids uncomfortable by repeatedly asking the same questions over and over again and making them announce it to the class in public. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Dr. Treese?
Thank you. I find it concerning that I keep hearing the word lack of transparency when I have never been in a district that has been as open and as transparent as this one. The health lessons and the sex education lessons were hand-selected by parents for the elementary school levels and are posted online. All of our curriculum guides for sexual education is posted online, and parents may, and have always, since I've been here for 11 years, can opt out. Longer than that, that has never changed. And we don't teach sex ed any differently than we've taught it many years ago. We honestly don't. Mr. Lewin, our K-12 supervisor of wellness, had a webinar that is recorded. We will leave it online for anyone who wants to see it, that he talked specifically about some of the changes the state suggested, what we adopted, which was not any of the inflammatory parts of that people were upset about. We didn't adopt any of that, and that is posted online. The survey. What teachers may do in their classroom is, please tell me how you would like us to refer to you. That may include your personal your pronouns or your name or what you want to be called. That is it, and that's to be welcoming. It's not to push one side over the other. First of all, there isn't a them and us. I think it's all of us, and we want everyone to feel welcome. I don't want folks to end up like that girl who sent out there and risked her life for us, but then she can't be welcome. I don't want that for any of our students, because we know we're losing them. But we don't certainly push any one thing or the other. Most of us are cisgendered, and when we refer to ourselves as she or her or he, him. But we give kids the opportunity and adults to share how they would like to be identified. The survey that somebody was referring to was sent out by the DEI committee in one of our school-based schools by a new faculty member that didn't realize that they were violating the policy by sending something out. And they were just trying to identify, how do you identify, and it was anonymous, in these groups? Are you a member of the LGBT community? Are you a person of color? What religions do you practice? Because they were trying to figure out how can they include those voices in the school community. Should have put that out to the community first, should have given parents an opportunity to opt out of it, didn't understand that, innocently enough, sending it out on behalf of a parent group of DEI-based, school-based committee. So we corrected that and said, no, you can't do that. You really need to let parents know up front so that they can opt out. Our policy is, if we have something about sexual behavior, which we don't teach sexual behavior, we say, how do you want to identify yourself? But if we are doing something around that, like with the attitudes and behavior survey we did in 2022, if we bring in Teen Pep, which we are not bringing in this year, but if we bring in a group that's going to talk about sexuality, that is an opportunity for you to opt out. If you want to have those conversations with your children yourself, I completely get that. And that is your right as a parent. That's always been your right. And we tell you about that before we do that. There are no covert, sneaky curriculum that's happening by outside organizations. We vet everything before it comes in here. And if it's sex ed, I don't care if they're doing it in a social studies class. it's still sexual education, and that needs to be communicated to the parents. Doesn't matter what classroom they went into. It's a shame if that's what this organization was doing. I don't know that that's what was happening in Princeton. They'll have to research that, but that's not an organization we use here, so it's not something we're worried about. But we are reviewing with our organizations that we deal with on the outside to make sure that is not happening, that we're clear when that report came out. Again, we won't be doing any of that with your children without your permission. And again, we keep it pretty bland. It's the same talks we had as kids, but we do want to make them aware of ways to protect yourself if you're going to be active. We do talk about abstinence as well, but as part of the state mandate, we talk about reproductive health and how to keep from bringing children in the world that you may not want, catching sexually transmitted diseases, all of those things at an age-appropriate level, and that doesn't begin until late middle school, high school. At the elementary level, we're just kind of pointing out the body parts and say, puberty's gonna happen. You know, with the parts you were born with, this is what's gonna happen, and this is how you need to be, this is what you need to be aware of. But again, those are very basic conversations. We share the slide decks with the parents after we have those conversations so you can reinforce that at home. And the same with our DEI conversations. You're well aware that anytime we have a guest speaker come in or we have a conversation like that in school, we always repeat and do it at night. We record it. We offer those same talks to you where you can download those and have those. We send them out and say, this is going on. If you want to talk about Diwali or Lunar New Year, here are some resources for you. So we always do reinforce that with you at home because we know that you can have those conversations with your children and do. So we always try to include you in everything that we do with students. So I'm hoping that we'll do a better job and put more things out there, but I don't want you to feel like we're trying to sneak around and keep something from you. That is never our intent, nor do we want to do that. We value the same things you value in regards to your child's education.
I don't think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, and the EA. I'm hearing that for the first time, and Dr. Plitz and I were making eye contact. We'll look and see what we can do about that. Yeah, we might have to get a little bit more information. The scheduling issue, yes. Yeah, we gotta look. Oh, yes. Yeah. Vicki, did you want to answer that one?
So when the students take the test in the spring, we don't get the results usually until the end of August. So when we're looking at the data in the fall, if we're able to make adjustments for topics that are coming up in the spring, we can do that. If not, it won't. If a topic has already passed by after we've done the analysis, it will be addressed in the following year.
I'll just make a comment. Yet another reason why I'm looking forward to link it as opposed to SLA. Yeah.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes, Mark.
All right. On the sexual education piece, this is a really tough topic, and I'm kind of talking to the people in the audience a little bit about this one. One of the things that I've asked and challenged the administration to do was to really focus on transparency as much as possible. And I have been impressed so far with the desire to do it. It's not going to happen overnight. We know that, right? We can't make changes overnight immediately, but I do believe that everybody sitting at this table does mean it when they say it, that they are doing their best to try to get the information out to you guys as much as possible. And there's no backdoor, back channel, anything going on that I can see. I have expressed publicly and privately about the concerns that I've heard about this topic on all sides, and I have continued to be happy with what Dr. Treese and others are doing to make sure that this is as transparent as possible. So I appreciate you guys coming and talking about it. Just know that transparency is critical. Dr. Treese is saying that and meaning it. She really is, and she is doing her best, and would welcome if you guys are hearing anything differently to try to figure that out too. So thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Try it. It's not on.
Sorry. I have a couple of comments from parents in my neighborhood who could not be here today. It's all about busing. Is this the right time to share that, or?
Sorry. That's a no.
Okay.
It'll go through committee. If that's appropriate, sorry. And just before we close out public comment, I do want to underscore most certainly what Mark is saying around transparency, but I also think it's important that as we go into this season of politics and election cycle, that we're very present to, there's a national dialogue out there. I want to encourage parents to check in with our local politics and whether it's actually a concern to our public environment. We are a very tight and small and special school district and community. I think we all value the ethos of Hopewell with the size of schools and the amount of the curriculum that we provide and the work that this administration does to reach parents and engage parents and have them participate and families participate in developing everything from goals to curriculum, etc. So I think my point in speaking as we close out this public comment is simply to say we welcome you attending meetings like this, but also please encourage your friends and neighbors to attend the coffees and chats, the budget overview. These are the moments we, not even we, but the administration's established to engage you, to have the open dialogue. That it's not exactly a great forum here to do so. That's when the transparency happens, and then they do a great job of trying to get it to the website, and then to each of the schools, age-appropriate school websites as well. So I have a great opportunity to speak with a number of people on a national level around education, and I can tell you, bar none of my conversations are, this school district does more on behavioral, as doing HIB assessments where other school districts would not even touch the investigation. This administration looks at everything evenly, even-handedly. So I know it sounds like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I just really want to encourage you all to understand the national dialogue isn't always relevant here at Hopewell because this particular administration does way more than most in engaging families and parents and using data. And it doesn't mean we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I encourage you to continue to be here, to continue to participate, to continue to attend the coffees and chats and any forum in which the administration reaches out to parents to make sure that your voices are heard. Those are the dialogues prior to policy where you all can make an impact. So I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you guys for coming and for the public comment section. Okay, any old business that we need to cover? Okay, just want to get a first and second on the consent agenda items. Those are the items that are starred on the agenda. All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, consent agenda items pass. We're going to go ahead and move on to the various committees and for updates. So we're going to start with facilities. I'm finance and facilities. Sorry. I think Bobby. Who's doing?
You want me to do this, Bob? I familiarized myself with the notes, so I'm going to apologize to the board. I did not attend. I was not able to attend the actual committee meeting, but I familiarized myself with the notes. I'll go in a slightly different order than they're in because I'll save the best for last. We have finally been able to purchase 2 5 vehicles, 4 vans and 1 truck, 2 types of vehicles that we have been waiting for due to supply chain issues for how long, Bob?
Almost 2 years.
I thought it was something.
We're halfway
but
done
that
paying them
didn't
off
seem
before
right.
we got them.
So we finally got him. There were a couple of other small budgeting things, some important project updates. The floor in TMS has been restored and the school seems normal. My intelligence officer at TMS is not reporting any weird smells anymore, so we're happy about that.
Yeah, they did a really nice job over there. You can hardly tell where the new area is.
Hopewell Elementary, there was a big project going on there. It's not fully complete, but I know that the top issue we were concerned about is to have all the plumbing work done, all the ceilings closed off for school year start. We were able to get there. The boiler system, we're waiting on 1 pump and a VFD, whatever that is, frequency drive fan. That would be needed for when we are gonna need to start heating very soon, but it seems like there is a temporary backup plan that the contractor has in case those don't arrive in time. And we have a chiller that still needs to be delivered, but hopefully we're done with heat waves, so it should be here during the winter and then installed in time. So that's all good. Oh yes, and in Bear Tavern, it seems like the water issue has been resolved, but even though we will still formally be non-compliant because it's a 4-year average that they're taking. So moving now on to the big and fun part. We have a long list of expensive capital improvement projects across the district that really need to be done. A big one, though not the only project, but a really big one is planning for the anticipated influx of students into the Bear Tavern territory. So Dr. Trees will be looking to schedule meetings with the mayors of the 3 municipalities that we have to discuss the possibility of a referendum as we get closer to a time when we have to make a decision if we were to go to a referendum. We discussed that timeline 2 committee meetings ago, and if I recall correctly, it's a matter of just several months before we have to either pull the trigger or decide to not do it. So we're getting kind of close there. And I think that's about it. Did I miss anything about?
There's one item that we need to approve, a donation.
Oh, that was not on the consent agenda?
Nope. All donations, we always do an acknowledgement.
Okay.
So we do have a donation of, an anonymous donation to the HVCHS high school cheerleaders for a new set of pom-poms, and a golf cart that was donated, golf cart and a shed for said golf cart to the Timberlane Middle School.
And the shed.
Again, another anonymous donor.
All right. So I guess I need to ask for a motion and a second.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Donations are, motion's accepted. Okay. All right, moving on to personnel.
I will give the report for this evening. Personnel Committee met right before this meeting, as we always do, and we discussed several items. So on the personal appointments this month, there are many, you'll see. We had some retirements and resignations, but also several appointments that we're excited for, and I would like to first share the appointment for
for your approval of our interim principal at Tollgate Grammar School, Melissa Laurie. Melissa's here with us this evening. In addition, you may have seen recent news from Dr. Treese regarding the permanent placement of Dr. Bertel at Hopewell Elementary School. I'm also happy to share that we have a new campus safety officer at Tollgate Grammar School. So we are fully staffed at this point. We are very excited. Our supervisors have done an amazing job, all of our administrators, and we're very, very happy. We think we found really wonderful people for all of our positions, and they're working great with our students. In addition, you'll see our ECAs, which is very extensive, several pages. You'll see all of our lunch duties and mentorships, advisors and directors for all of our clubs and activities, everything starting off our sports, volunteers, everything like that. So that's a lot in there. In addition, with Ms. Laurie's moving over to Tollgate, we are having our search for an interim Timberlane vice principal, which we hope to have in place during the first week of October. So that's it.
I need a motion and a second for all of the personnel items on the agenda. Roll call, please. We'll handle that, or before the vote? Okay, go ahead.
Just a quick one. So on the making appointment of Dr. Bertel's permanent, his name on the list, is that something we have to approve? So is that something that we can minute as being added, or? Well, that's my question. Can we make a motion to add it
Motion to
to?
amend, but I don't know that we have the information handy.
Oh,
But
okay.
she may.
If we have the information, let's motion.
Yeah, so that. So you really did want to take my question before the vote.
Go ahead.
The way you would see it is, once it's refreshed, you should be able to go
Oh.
in and out and
Control R.
refresh.
Probably should amend it. We're amending the motion.
Okay, I need a first and second to amend the agenda to add.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
So just so we know, we are motioning and seconding to amend the agenda to include Dr. Scott Bertel as the permanent principal at Hopewell Elementary.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep. And the information, I do see it there as the very first line, so easy to find.
He's officially been added. Okay. Thank you. All right. Having amended the agenda, I need a first and a second to pass all the personnel agenda items.
Roll call. We already did that.
Oh, we did that.
Well,
We're back to the original. We amended the motion. They voted on that. Now we're back to the original motion.
Okay.
which
Roll
was
call, please.
Dr. Genovese. Dr. Lilliston. Dr. Liu. Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Dr. Resnick.
Yes.
Dr. Wilson. Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to the EdCom update.
Hello? Okay. Mr. DeStefano came and presented on the class of 2023 and their post-secondary experiences, which was wonderful. We also had Miss Gianfretti talk about her reflections on the Timber Lane master schedule that was rolled out last year, and we will look forward to hearing Mr. Turnbull's thoughts in the spring. We had a few book rationales proposed by Miss Baskin for adoption, and on behalf of Miss Claps, I presented a community book club proposal in which she would like to have 3 to 4 community book clubs with parents on different topics that align with our district's goals. So she is very pleased to be starting that in October, so please be on the lookout for information. That was it.
Awesome. Any questions?
So I don't sit on that committee, but I reviewed Mr. DeStefano's presentation, and one of the things that I noticed that he highlighted in there is a desire to focus on preparing children for college and for that next step and spending more time on that. Do we have any data that speaks to like how our kids are doing once they go to secondary, like once they enter college or whatever their path is after high school?
So I believe that a few years ago he surveyed some students about how prepared they felt based on their experiences in high school, and I think this was before COVID, or maybe, or no, it was no, because he wasn't here, or it was like right around COVID. And I remember it being very successful. Like the students' responses were very positive. But I'm wondering if that's something that we could have him.
I definitely
look
think we could
into.
do it again. Dr. Smith used to do it. It was before COVID.
Okay.
He used to do it frequently. Like biannually, we would do it. And then Dan DeStefano did during COVID. So yes, we do those. Reach out to students and see how they're prepared. We hear generally that they're prepared very well, except for dealing with diversity, because there's not much here. So that's why we do a lot of work with DEI, because they go off to different places in the world and the country where they have to interact with folks from all walks of life, and they kind of live in a little bubble here. But that's one of the things that they say they're not prepared for, and also kind of making decisions and navigating on their own, because we do a little too much for them. But yes, it would be good to get that follow-up and see, if any of the changes we've been making is making a difference in their responses.
For those who do go on to four-year universities, do we have data on completion rates, like whether they're dropping out of college or whether they complete college?
We should have that information. That's also something we should be able to get through Naviance, where they're going and following that. But yes, we could. Yes.
But I do know we've done that in the past.
That might be something to look at into, though. There's organizations that do that work, and so that they can help us get that data. Generally, you do pretty well, because the evidence is the colleges don't accept you again if you don't have a good track record with that. But I would like to have some real numbers to that for you. Yes.
Alex?
I'd like to just take this opportunity. I was going to make this comment after Dr. Treese, your presentation, but I think the way you ended it, it seemed a little too trivial at the time, so I parked it. But I was going to make it here. You made a comment about the AP and honors counseling, and I wanted to suggest that we take that in a bigger context of why students are pushing themselves to take AP honors classes that they may not necessarily be prepared for, and in some instances they may be prepared for, but still shouldn't take them, maybe in a volume that they want to take them in, right? And kind of look at how much of that is being driven by a perception that I absolutely have to overload in everything, otherwise I will not be competitive, and if I'm not competitive and I don't go to the perfect school or do this, then my life is going to end. I don't know the extent to which that's an impact, but I suspect that's part of it. And I think in figuring out how to counsel kids on taking appropriate classes and what in the business world would be called the opportunity cost of taking something that you shouldn't be taking and therefore not having time to do other things which could benefit you. We kind of need to address the whole bigger picture of a perception that it's a world that is competitive to a point where if I'm not pushing myself over the limit, then I'm not going to do over it. So I want to make sure that we do it, and since we're talking about Dr. DiStefano here and what he does with colleges and stuff, I figured this might be a good time to bring that up.
Well said. Thank you. Any other questions? We do have a item to approve.
I'd like to, oh, sorry, just
Go ahead. No.
make a comment on that. I think when we survey our graduates, in addition to like, did you graduate college and, you know, salary and things like that, that you normally ask, also asking the questions are like, you know, are you happy where you are in life? And those sorts of questions, because I think when you look at it more holistically and show the kids a more holistic picture, that you can go to not an Ivy League, or you can enter into a trade, be making very good money, and be really happy with your life and where you are. So I think it's the picture that we as adults also are showing our children, and making sure that we're showing them all different pictures and really thinking about our culture. You know, I love that Miss Riley introduced the student, talked about how well-rounded she was. It wasn't all about, I'm taking this many AP classes. So I think it's the way we talk in the district and how parents talk at home, and really showing that whole picture. So I would, you know, like us to collect lots of different data.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? All right. So we have approval of the pre-K 12 curriculum for 23-24, which we do every year. Right? So first and second, and then roll call, please. Thank you. Roll call. Roll call.
Dr. Liu? Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Dr. Resnick?
Yes.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes.
Dr. Genovese?
Yes.
Dr. Littleton?
Yes.
And Ms. Williams-Galliano?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, moving on to community relations. Jackie?
I'm looking at something there. Community relations. Okay. Hold on a second. So I can actually see. So Dr. Tree stole a lot of my thunder. It's okay. But I'm going to repeat some things because that's how we learn. So we did talk about the DEI committee that you mentioned. There are 30 people that were selected for that. I just want to remind people, if you were not selected, that the Drug and Alcohol Committee will stay open until Friday, so you can sign up for that. It would be nice to get a couple of more people on that. There are 9 so far, but 9's a pretty good number. It is a good number. We talked about the upcoming chats. So to remind everyone, last year, Dr. Therese had coffee chats around different topics, and we're going to do them again this year. So thank you very much for spending your time. We appreciate that. We also talked about the Hopewell Express. For those of you who missed it, I encourage you to go and read it. It was a lovely open year spread with pictures and activities of what our students are doing. The next one will come out in December, so we look forward to having that, and we're collecting things for that right now. And then we also talked about the 5-year strategic plan and the opportunity for community to get involved in that really important future planning for the district. And I think that was it. Did I miss anything important?
Any questions? Okay. Moving on to SEL.
SEL. Okay. So that is also me. And let me just get my notes here. Okay, so our SEL, we talked about the full rollout of the Character Strong program and our data collection. So we're going to do an October collection of data and a May collection of data on that Character Strong program, which is our SEL program. Since this is its first year of full rollout, the administrative teams are also going to be doing walkthroughs to take a look and see how our implementation is going with that. This year, again, thank you to Dr. Therese and Paulette, are going to have our Nurtured Heart classes again. They're going to be starting in October and running through April. And in addition to the new Nurtured Heart classes, they're also going to do some reboot. Thank you. I'm like, what was that word I was looking for? Some reboot for parents and teachers who might have already been trained to be able to get trained in the Nurtured Heart. I highly recommend it. I was trained and I loved it, and it was really a great tool for your parenting toolbox. Let's see. Parent University. So we're also going to continue with our Parent University quarterly meetings for parents and guardians on different topics, and those are always videotaped so people can go back and watch them. If you're a busy working parent like I am, it is great to be able to go back and watch videos sometimes. We also, which was mentioned before, will be continuing our services with our 6th through 12th graders for those families that their students might need counseling, and especially for families who cannot financially support private counseling for their children. So I think that's an important thing that we are continuing on. And then just our SAC counselors are in the midst of coordinating classes, grade level and building level SEL supports, and drug and alcohol awareness programming. Did I miss anything important? Nope. There you go. That's SEL.
Thank you. All right. Any questions? Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Moving on to policy.
Hey, Bob, you're going to have to help me because I'm reporting out on what we need to do as far as moving these. The first reads.
The first reads are just.
I need a motion and second for our first reads on policy 3126, district mentoring programs, and regulation 3126, district mentoring programs.
Second.
So for these two, these are just state mandated New Jersey Department of Ed mandates on guidance around how we should handle new teacher induction, staff induction, training, and the regulations on how we enforce or implement these programs. These are things that we already do, so it's pretty basic, and it just highlights what the expectations are on training teachers and their and making sure they get their final certificates from the state, providing them a mentor, which this district provides. Some districts require the staff to pay for it. We do pay for all of these programs and provide mentors to the new teachers, as well as training in the summers that we bring them in for, which is part of their contract for year 1 and year 2, and ongoing training during the year. Ms. Vicky Plitzis and 2 of our vice principals actually hold the new mentor classes for that staff. So this is just a regulation and policy around that. And then it's the same for second reads, or no? Okay. Vote?
Before that,
Okay.
I got procedural questions.
Sure.
Are these new or are these existing?
These are new. For some reason, we didn't have them officially in our arsenal of policy and regulation, although we're doing all of these things. So we're just now officially adopting them.
So if they're new, They have like a date created of July 1993,
Yeah, they're-
date edited,
This is,
so that has to.
we didn't change anything on them, so that's when policy was rolled out. We just never adopted it, for whatever reason.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm adopting it 2020.
So we've created and edited them way back, but we never
This is the
adopted
original
it?
policy from 2017 that we never adopted for
Adopted.
whatever reason.
Okay.
And so now I'm making sure we
Got
adopt it.
And then the other thing I was going to say, so it says adopted in September of 2023. If this is the first read, we're not going to be able to adopt it till October.
If that's the case, then we'd have to change that, so I'll make sure I
Yeah.
change that for October.
So essentially, policy manuals have mandated policies that the state mandates you have, and then there's other policies that either they recommend you have, they're nice to have, there's special policies like, so
Bob,
this is-
I'm not questioning.
He just
that,
wants to
it's
change the date.
I'm just looking at,
The procedures.
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm looking at it and it says adopted in September.
But we haven't adopted it yet. It won't be till October, he's
Yeah.
correct. The next time
Yeah.
we get the second read is when we officially
Yep.
adopt it. Correct. Mm-hmm. So we'll change that, thank you.
Just being.
No, you're correct.
No, that's absolutely important.
You are,
Correct.
actually.
You gotta catch these things. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. So we can move that on to second read, and then we'll make that adjustment. Okay, so we go there. So what do I say?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? All right, motion carries. Okay, for our second read, we have the policy 2419, school threat assessment teams. Based on our conversation last week, we added that the school board and the district would have a report out annually on if we have any school threat assessments, kind of the trends and kind of the folks that might have been making those threats. Luckily, we don't get a lot of those, so I'm not anticipating a lot, but we will report out on that when we report out on the harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Regulation, again, there were no changes to that made except for adding that reporting mechanism. Policy R5600, student code of conduct. We're ready finally after, actually it's like third or fourth read, but we've made some changes to that policy based on our conversations as well, making a larger range and more flexibility for the administrators, and leaning more on trying to keep students in school as much as possible, and using trauma-informed practices that we know work better than just being punitive all the time. And then finally, the regulation 7510, use of school facilities, is ready now for second read. So I'd like a motion to accept the second read.
So moved.
Roll call?
Mr. Peters. Yes. Dr. Resnick.
Yes.
Dr. Wilson.
Yes.
Dr. Genovese. Yes. Dr. Lilliston.
Yes.
Dr. Liu. Yes. Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Therese. Yeah, and I just want to put a note in to celebrate our work on that was a lot of work, but it was great work, and I think it's important to acknowledge the work each of the schools do to keep our kids in school, period. And really addressing behavioral issues by not removing them from the school setting. So it was a big lift. All right. Moving on.
I have a question on the topic of policies. I know we discussed revisiting the randomized drug and alcohol testing policy. What's our timeline for getting that going?
I'd like to bring it up as part of that committee, of the drug and alcohol committee. Those
Okay.
are gonna be on there. Are you volunteering yourself to be a part of that?
I could volunteer if you need a board representative to be on. I've been staying out of volunteering as a parent just because of the
Conflict of
but
interest?
Sure. Sure, you can volunteer me.
Okay, sounds good.
He voluntold himself.
Okay, so you go.
Well done. Okay, so I need everyone, the calendars, right? Motion first and second to approve September and October, sorry, we're already in September. October calendars.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, I forget. I do that every time. I know. We kind of already do.
On the docket right now, we've got personnel on the 16th at 6:15 p.m. We've got SEL already scheduled for October 12th at 10 a.m. And we have finance facilities set for October 9th at 5 o'clock p.m.
Any contest to those dates, times?
Anybody, CNI, or curriculum? What kind of overlap do you have?
Oh, gotcha.
I'm flexible on the night, so go figure out.
6.
I'll figure it out. Yeah, it's just me, so I'll figure out once I know what the agenda was.
Well, the last time we did policy, we did it later.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do that again, 11:30 to 12:30? I was looking at the week of first, like the 2nd to the 6th, any day of that week would work well for you all? Was Friday better?
Friday was better for me.
Thursday at what time? I would say 11:30? Yeah, we can definitely do it. Then, that works. So Thursday the 5th, 11 to 12.
Thursday the 5th?
Does that work for you? 11 to 12?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't we usually piggyback that onto another one?
Yeah, SEL's Thursday, the 12th at 10.
Do you want to piggyback it onto that one?
Can you do 9?
I'm sorry, what day was that?
October 12th?
I have AC at 9. Okay. Can we do it after at 11?
Slavery.
Think so. I mean, right now, yes. It gets harder
Right,
when
if
you
we
get
have
in
to
the
change
middle
it.
of the day like
Yes.
that.
We have to change it. We can,
Okay, yeah. I mean, as long as, you know.
can be flexible.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we want to try that? Does that work for you, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, it does.
Okay, Dr.
Whatever.
All right.
Well, that's subtract.
Yes. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, schedules are approved. All right, moving on to new business items.
I have a new business item.
Yes. Are we projecting?
Pardon me? No, this,
Okay.
I handed out little papers for people. Essentially, this is, last meeting, we gave Dr. Treese the opportunity to expand the civic engagement democracy ideas to power, to increase power. But the fact is, we still have. I know where we're dealing with this stuff. We have in our country a crisis for democracy. We have a crisis that involves schools. I'm not saying that crisis is involving Hopewell, but what I am saying is that our job as a school board is, according to what I get from the New Jersey School Board Association, part of that job is oversight and appraisal, which means to me that we have to collect some kind, or we have to review data that suggests that a program is working the way that it should be working. So my sense is that we need to have the curriculum committee provide some planning and on which to support the kind of assessment that we need in order to fulfill our job as a school board. So essentially what I want to do right now is to move that we direct the curriculum committee to generate the planning needed for assessment that lets this school board accomplish the required oversight and appraisal of the district's civic engagement and democracy curriculum. Do I have a second?
Can we ask questions before we?
Sure, that's part of this process. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I just wanted to go back to the goals that were presented, because I think that what you're presenting here does align, and I'm sorry, I'm pulling them up on my computer so I can reference back to them, does align with the goals that were presented to this group around civic engagement and building community, right? So we have identify a model to efficiently teach civics, empowering civic engagement and building community. That's what you're referring to, right, Dr.
Yes,
Right.
Yes, that's right.
And so I think what I wanted to hear from maybe Dr. Plitus or Dr. Treese is, what would be your process for moving that goal forward in committee? As in, is this something that we would already plan to incorporate into this process moving forward?
When we're looking at a model, we will have various members vet different models or pilot or whatever. And so, I think that was, we haven't really talked it through, but I think that was the plan. And then once the piloting or the vetting has gone through, then we would present it at ed committee for approval. So they're not, we don't usually have them involved. We don't usually have the planning portion approved. It's usually the results of what we've accomplished approved.
So in my mind, what this looks like, our K-12 supervisor of special education, not special education, social studies, who is in charge of civic education, is one, bring in where to the education program committee, where are we teaching civics now in our schools? Finding a model that we agree does what we needed to do in terms of teaching civic responsibility to students, democracy, all of those tenets around what that looks like at the local level, at the school-based level, and beyond, right? And then trying to, as we look at our curriculum, see that it aligns to that, and then adopting more opportunities for that to happen. I know Mr. Lewin is very passionate, as you are, Mr. Wilson, and one of the things that he would like to also do is add a mandatory civics class at the high school someplace. We teach at many different levels, starting at grade K for what does it mean to be a citizen in your classroom? what does it mean to have rules and norms in your home as a family. We start at the base level, and we build upon that to this is what makes up our democracy, this is how you engage in a democracy, and all of those things. But looking at, in 9th or 10th grade, all students being required to take a civics class before they graduate. And what does that look like? But one, we have to identify a model of what we want this to look like. It's funny, the board president just sent me some snapshots from an article recently about this, where colleges used to teach this for a while. And then we got away from it. We used to have to all take, some sort of civics or civic engagement, and then they went away from that. And how they've never replaced it with anything, and the intolerance that we're having at the college level with any time you have something that we don't agree with, we want to chase the guest speaker out and all of that, right? So really working on finding a model where folks learn how to disagree civilly. They understand that in a democracy there is disagreement, but how do we do that without muting or stomping down someone else's voice? All of those pieces being a part of it. So I think moving what Dr. Wilson is asking is in alignment with this.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm totally agree with what's happening here. I want us to have some data.
Yeah.
Now, if that's already been happening, I haven't seen the data, but I think that we need to have some data that suggests that this program's working or not.
Yeah. I'll make a couple of comments. I think I'll largely agree with what folks said, but maybe kind of
Can
my
you
own,
speak in the mic, Alex?
yeah, but maybe have a bit of my own perspective. So, broadly speaking, I agree that we need to do this, and I actually don't think that either this district or the primary education system, the K through 12, whatever the right word, education system in the U.S., really fully addresses it at this point. And to me, when it comes to civics and civic engagement, there's several levels to this, right? There is the importance of engaging in civics at a local community level, at a local level, and doing it civilly, right? And why that's critically important. There's the importance of a representative government and why that's very important, right? There's the importance of the way this particular government that we live in works. And I think especially as you get to the high school level, right, really digging into some of the more complex issues that democracy brings, right? So my current most favorite example is, why is there such an uproar about Israel using a democratic process to remove a patently undemocratic institution, and why is that being probably at least some good reason being called an attack on democracy? And I bet you there's very, very few kids in our high school that would be able to answer that question, right? So there are some really complex things that really have to do directly with how this country that we live in works, the state works, the local government works, and why it works the way that it does, for better or worse, right? So I'd like to see all of that happen. But, as far as us having a motion to cause some of that to happen, I think we have a goal. I'd like to figure out a way, because, right, I don't want the board to dictate what the curriculum is. That's not our job. I want to make sure that you guys come back to us with some measurements on how that's working. And I would venture to say that you probably can't use the standards that are out there, because I think the educational standards as they now are not really addressing it. So you would have to get somewhat more creative than what the state and the national standards call for. So instead of having a motion now, I think a strong request from the board to the administration to come back to us, whether it's in the AdCom or
Yeah,
with the board as a whole, and then we'll take it from there. But I strongly support that we need to. be doing
Yeah, and
that.
I'm not taught,
the-
I'm sorry.
just as a matter of process,
Right.
when new business comes up, and we've talked about it previously, we're moving it to committee. There's no resolution.
Oh,
There's
okay.
nothing for us to approve or disapprove at this point. It's simply going a level deeper than we had previously discussed in the goals and
So I would
goals committee.
definitely support moving it to committee.
But what I'm saying is, yes, I move it to committee, but I'm also saying that use that material, that model, that construct to generate some assessment device that allows us to get a sense of how it is functioning in our school district. Yeah, I'm totally agree with everything you said. I want to go one step further. I want to have some data. That's all.
So actually, that brings up an interesting question that I haven't looked into, and that is whether there are assessments out there that actually measure civic understanding of students, at least at a high school level, right? Because I think at an elementary school level, we teach our kids the importance of living in democracy, why it's great, why it's unique, and that's kind of appropriate for elementary school.
Well,
At a high school, you got to go deeper, and I think we need to get that data.
I've asked kids, my grandkids are going to the schools here, and I've asked them and their friends, what's liberty? And none of them can answer that question. I asked them, what does it mean to be united? We say this in the our oath every morning. They don't understand that. Now, that sort of basic conceptualization, I'd like to see that happening in the school district.
Got it. Any other questions? And again, what we're aligning on is just concept, and it'll move to committee. So just questions that might inform how the committee brings the topic. Okay? All right. Any other new business items? Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
I had a new business item. I think one of the things that we had discussed at a previous meeting is mapping out sort of what policies are lined up on the policy committee agenda for the next however many months, and then thinking through which of those might benefit from a review of other committees. And so I don't know if there's been discussion about that in the policy committee. I don't even know, Adam's not here, so I don't know who can speak to that. But I know we benefited from a really nice discussion about the Student Code of Conduct and the SEL committee, and so I'm wondering just, is there a plan for that moving
So
forward?
my plan for this right now is just to try to really make sure that we get some of the ones adopted that we need to, that we haven't, like the one that we just saw tonight. And then absolutely, and it'll probably, unfortunately, with the ones that we have in the queue, it's not going to happen until after the election. And then whoever the next committee person is, lay out what we have to do, and then set up which ones do we invite other committee members to.
Thank you.
But again, a lot
Thank
of
you,
the
that's a good
policies are
question.
driven by what's so a lot of times you get bogged down in what's mandated.
Right.
There's things called alerts that come out, and they'll say is you got to address, Ms. Smith gave us a bunch of policies that had to be done for our comprehensive equity plan. Right. So while we might have had things in order, they had to go to the top of the list.
Yeah.
What she's asking is when we see those policies, right? Some of them we said we may send out to other committees because, or invite folks from the other committees to come take a look, so that we don't have to hash it out here. But if we know it's like particularly something that SEL should be looking at, in your case, finance and facilities, inviting that one representative or somebody to come.
To the meeting, not
to
just
the meeting,
discuss it
yes.
in our-
Right.
So that we don't have to, like what we did with the discipline, go through it like 4 times, and we could just hit it then.
We learned a lot. Wonderful. Okay. Anything else? Moving on to second public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. And as always, please remember to sign in at the podium. Public comments now open.
My name is Suzanne Trautwein. I live in Pennington. I apologize, I'm not prepared. I just came to listen, but I felt the need to share. Dr. Treese, thank you for sharing and using your story to help raise awareness. I just want to share a story that happened about a year ago, a little over a year ago, with my then third grader. She came home confused and upset about a lesson that had happened in her classroom. And it turned out that they read a book about transgender. And the conversation that followed was about who in the community do they know that was also transgender. This was not anything that I knew about, and other parents that I had spoken to were also unaware. Fast forward to a discussion that I had with the teacher and the principal at the same time. They made me aware of what exactly that conversation was, which is what I had just mentioned. They went into a little more depth. And in the same conversation, it was shared that there was an all-school read aloud on the similar topic the day before. So when we talk about transparency, it's not that we're trying to come across angry or anything in that manner, but I think it's important for you to understand that there is a little lack of trust when things like that happen, and my then 8-year-old comes home to tell me this and is upset with a stomach ache and crying to me. It is hard to put full trust in what's going on when I send my children to school. And that was told to me in those meetings that that was under the socio-emotional learning curriculum that they were doing then in Gator groups at their school. Again, back to the high tops thing, it feels as if that was kind of slid in. And, you know, I'm all for you do you. I teach my children what love and respect is, and we have our own beliefs in our home. I just wanted to know. I would have liked to have the heads up so that I could have approached the matter differently without a stomach ache and tears and upset confusion that went on that day and that evening and for a few days after. That's my point, is just that I don't think we're coming at you in a way that we're upset because we don't think you're trying, but I also want you to see how we are feeling when these things happen. It's hard to put that trust in what's going on. There's always going to be that. And then for that to actually happen in my home, it was upsetting. So thank you.
My husband would hear, he would say, don't speak extemporaneously, but I'm going to try it anyway. I just want to say to you that one of the constraints of coming...
Can you reintroduce yourself? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Sylvia Kosas, 7 Wydell Drive, Pennington, New Jersey. One of the difficulties and constraints of coming to the board meeting for public comments is we have 3 minutes. You guys have all the time in the world, okay? So, again, along with Suzanne, it's difficult to have courageous conversations in 3 minutes. How much can you say? I want to say I am totally, Dr. Treese, again, as everyone else has said, you know, struck by your conversation about your son. But I have 3 minutes. And that means if I have to say that or want to say that or desire to say that, I can't get through what I've tried to write. We come and we do value you as board members, okay? We want you to know that. We don't want to feel as if it's adversarial, but we're concerned and we care. And in 3 minutes, we can't say all that all the time. So I just wanted to take this time and the second time to just say that. Having more chats, informal roundtables, opportunities to get together and speak about these courageous conversations, but not having 3-minute limitations is going to be really helpful. Okay, so thank you all. You do a great job, and we do appreciate you. Okay.
Hi again, Allison Yakis, Hopewell Township, Westcott Boulevard. On the same topic, there was last year or the year prior, I can't recall, in Hopewell Elementary, a transgender child that changed genders, and none of the parents were informed prior to everyone pulling the kids out one by one and discussing it with them that they are now to call this child a different name and a different gender, when most of them don't even know what that means. So you can't do things like that and not pre-inform the parents and tell them what's going on, and then just pull their little elementary school kids out and expect us to be trusting in what you're doing. It's not transparent, and it's backdoored, and there needs to be better communication from the district regarding these very sensitive topics. So I'd like you to take that into consideration. We're not trying to attack you, or we're just calling it like it is, our personal experiences that we have. My topic I wanted to talk about was that we moved specifically to this district for academic standards and a high quality education. And in fact, the motto on the district website is excellence in education. So I wanted to talk about the high school summer required reading that was assigned to grades 9 through 12. Every student, I'm rushing because I'm pressured for time, I'm sorry, was assigned to read the same book, despite the fact that they should be at different reading levels. The book, Clap When You Land, was rated by Common Sense Media. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. It's a very resourceful website. A 2 out of 5 for educational value. The book is written entirely in verse, which is not easy for everyone to follow, and covers topics, and I quote the website, handles the death of a parent, a plane crash, stalking, sexual harassment, sexual assaults. Yaharia is a lesbian, and her girlfriend is African American. Camino's best friend is Haitian. Girlfriends kiss during the story, and characters use variations of ass, FK, SHIT, hell, and bitch. There are some insults in Spanish, plus brief mentions of cigars, beer, Johnny Walker, rum, whiskey. One student reviewer wrote that she was disappointed, said the book had multiple references to sexual action, sex trafficking, homosexual teens, extramarital affairs. She couldn't even read the book without chapters without stopping because it was bothersome. Too much sex, drinking, drugs, and smoking. Another reviewer wrote, it should be called Clap When It's Over. My questions are, why do all of the students have to read the same book for high school reading? Shouldn't we have different books for different reading levels and grades? I'm assuming the 12th grade readers should be at a different reading level than 9th grade readers. And what is the selection criteria for summer reading, and who's choosing the assigned reading? Maybe we should refer to some of the nearby private school reading selections because they seem to be more educational. In the future, can we please provide a short list of books to pick from that might offer alternatives for those who seek stronger educational value and more positive character role modeling? Thank you. I'm sorry if I seem angry, but sensitive topics. I appreciate all that you do, and thank you very much.
Hi, Christine Rule, Hopewell Township. I like the idea of introducing civics, but as long as it's from a neutral perspective. And we live in a constitutional republic, not a democracy. So I'd like to make sure that is highlighted as well. And I just want to go back to my first comment. So you said there was an oops, somebody sent it out with, it was a new person. What kind of disciplinary actions were taken against this person, and what are you doing to ensure this doesn't happen again? And, I want to repeat myself because that's how you learn. Why was this survey done to begin with, and what were you hoping to gain from it? Thank you.
Hi, My name is Jen DiDonato. I live in Hopewell Township. Dr. Treese, I want to thank you again for sharing your story about Ronnie. I want to give you my deepest condolences and sympathies. Over the years, I've also lost very close friends, several, to suicide. One in particular was my best friend, whom I considered my brother, and I was the last person that he called, asking for help before he lost his life. So this topic of mental health is very important to me. I want to circle back to the first day of school, and I want to talk about what the teachers asked my child to do in every single class besides one. The teachers, an authoritative figure, asked my child to state their name, state their pronouns, and what they did for the summer. This is something that they wanted everyone to say out loud, no matter what. My child decided to omit the pronoun from what they needed to talk about, which I believe is a brave choice, especially in front of all of their peers. My child was called out by a classmate saying that they forgot their pronouns in front of the entire class. My child was extremely embarrassed and ashamed. So my question to you is, who is looking out for my child's mental health? That's it. Thank you.
Kim Johnson, Hopewell Township. I just have a follow-up to Christine's question about the survey last year. And that is, in addition to the questions that she asked, what was done with the data that was collected from that survey? Was it, in fact, destroyed because it would be then an invalid survey if it was not done properly? That's my only question. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay.
Nikki, if you could start with the summary and just talk to us real quickly about how it was selected, and then I'll jump in.
So the high school English department wanted to do a whole book read or a whole school read, just because they thought it would be a great opportunity for everyone to be discussing the same book, even though they would be talking and analyzing it differently based on which level class they were. The English department vetted several books and felt that they went with this book. They liked the book in verse, and they liked the diverse perspectives, and it was presented to Ed Program, the book rationale, and approved by the Board of Education.
Thank you. And a lot of the classic books have, a lot of the things that we're talking about as far as alcohol and sexual content and language, even in the classes. I can think of several right now. The Sun Also Rises, Catcher, some of these books. So that we do share with parents that the advisories on some of these books as well, and we do provide alternate reading. We have in the past done summer readings where kids were allowed to select. We've gone back and forth with that. We can continue to explore that so that kids have more options. And if they hate a book, that's okay too. I hated a lot of what I read, and that's okay to say that. And teachers should leave space for them to talk about that in the class as well. But we will try to involve more choice in there as much as we can, and we have in the past. In terms of the survey, again, the survey was just designed so that the DEI committee at that school level could decide what kind of program they wanted to offer for the parents and students. They didn't use it beyond that, and I don't know that they used it at all really to implement anything. There were some discussions about having forums and doing certain assemblies and things like that for the kids, but I don't know that they ever did anything with it. beyond that discussion. It was never intended to be like a broader survey for the rest of the school community to use. Just who's represented in our school body and what kind of services should we bring to them based upon that. So as far as the books, LGBTQ literacy is mandated by the state of New Jersey, and I've shared that since it was mandated about 3 years ago. So there are books on our shelves about transgendered students, members of the LGBT community, in that I'm different, this is me, this is who I am. I worry about students that are upset about that, right? Because we have transgendered students in the elementary level. And the reason why we don't announce it to the whole community, I have to announce it to you if you're sitting in the classroom, because now the student's coming in and identifying differently than maybe started out in the beginning of the year, right? But I don't want to put that out to the rest of the community because hostility sometimes happens with those students. Sometimes people are unkind, adults are unkind, and we have to protect the child. And that's not something we're going to blast out to the whole classroom, parents and everyone, that, oh, this is happening, right? The parents in the classroom certainly should be made aware, but we wouldn't certainly let the whole classroom community. So if we're not doing a great job with that, we need to do a better job, right? But it's something the whole school community may not necessarily know about that. So we'll make sure we're trying to do a better job about that. But we're trying to protect the child is the bottom line. But we do have students at the elementary level who identify as transgendered. There wasn't that long ago where there were a lot of other students with neurodiversity that people were afraid of and put in another place. People that look like me, kids were afraid to be next to in class. That worries me that kids are coming home and finding out that there's kids that identify differently than they do, and that we're upset and afraid about that. That's saying we need to do more work in this area, not less. But certainly we need to do a better job about including parents so you can have the discussion at home, and you're certainly having those discussions, I imagine, as my parents did as well. This is what we believe based on our faith here. We know folks live their lives in different ways, but this is what we believe in our faith. But ultimately knowing as a parent that our kids are going to make their own choices around faith. But you certainly teach those lessons at home. We don't teach those lessons here in school. I assure you the private schools are having the same conversations because I'm in those circles. Because we receive all types of students and parents who fit these different social groups and life groups and who we are as people. It's who we are, right? And everybody should feel like they have a place and they have safety in this world. And that is required. So yes, there's books that look like all of the kids that come through our buildings, all of them. And I don't think the kids are as upset about it as we profess. The kids are fine with it. It seems to be the adults, and me included, that have to work through some of this. They're okay with all the different ways we identify. So again, we have to do a better job. We're going to continue to do that and try to figure out how we're going to navigate this. But I don't think forcing folks back into a closet where they don't feel safe to share that is okay. And I don't think anyone should feel traumatized because they're asked to stand up in solidarity and say, I'm she, her. And I get that you may not be, you may be they, but we're cool. We're all good. We can all live in the same world and exist even though your pronouns are different than mine. I'm hoping we can get there. And I know this is tough because we've never done this in schools. And we're gonna make mistakes. I'm not saying we're perfect. And yes, we tell people when they make mistakes, yes, we have to do better next time, and we hope they learn from it. And if they don't continue to learn from it, they may not be with us, right? But we do want to give people an opportunity to fall down, make mistakes, and learn, because this is a growing process for all of us. We want everybody to be a part of our school community, and a safe part. Yeah.
Oh. We can't have a discussion from the audience. Can you hold?
I'm not reprimanding. I was just providing my answer to my thoughts on this. Again, this is not the forum for us to have a back and forth. I'd love to engage in that conversation with you. And I'm not cutting you off. I'm just saying, I was cut off too. But we need to, we'll have more conversations about it. But I do invite you, we do have these forums. We had a big forum that one of our parents sponsored. We had a lot of people. Ms. Kosis did show up. Those are the opportunities for us to really engage in these conversations in small groups and larger groups and really hear from the students that are walking in these steps, that are struggling, that we saw in this survey that are struggling, that don't feel safe, that don't feel valued by the community, that are disproportionately attempting to take their own lives, that we have to send out because we're concerned about their mental health, because they don't feel accepted by the community. That's what the kids are saying. So this is something we have to work through together.
Okay, we need to have a different forum. This is not the appropriate forum for this back and forth. We can't do that. So I appreciate the feelings in the room, but this is not the forum. Did you have any other items to respond to? Okay, so we are going to actually, were there any other comments, by the way? No, you only have your 1 3-minute session, I'm sorry.
Listen, I'm willing to hang afterwards. If anybody wants to chat, I can certainly hang afterwards.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to move on to executive session. And any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiation which the public body is or may become a party, and any matter failing from the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required to preserve the attorney-client relationship is part of the resolved process for moving into executive session. We will be discussing matters of harassment, intimidation, and bullying matters, as well as personnel matters. No action will be taken. First and second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Thank you for coming. We're in executive session now. Thank you.